Good afternoon, friends and traders. Welcome to Market Recap. I am Dan Hodgman. It is Monday, June 14th. I hope you guys all had a spectacular weekend. I'm sitting here kind of in awe. You ever have one of those, holy crap, what the hell is going on moments? Well, that's kind of how I feel right now looking at these markets. Stock market, we saw a little pop a half hour ago. And across the board in all of these, my initial thinking was, okay, we're getting a little pop. End of the day, maybe we'll see equity, S&Ps and Dow try to recover a little bit of their losses. Every headline out there is saying, because they still haven't caught up, every headline out there is basically saying Dow, S&P give off a little bit from all-time highs. You could look at end the day down, while NASDAQ tech stocks continue to show a little bit of strength. I mean, that's the headlines. Right now, from what I'm getting, I'm not seeing a ton of information. So if you guys have stuff, I've been kind of trying to get ready for this, and then all this is happening, and I'm not seeing the information just yet. But I believe it's President Biden is speaking, having a conference right now, taking some questions about everything going on with NATO. So that's possibly what we have going on here. Really, what's been so intriguing to me today, still this last few week or so, has been inflation. We're seeing inflation. We're hearing a lot about it. It tends to be kind of the headline, and yet here we are making all-time highs in these markets. Looks like NASDAQ made it. S&Ps are there again. We're making these all-time highs. Yet inflation is still on the rise, and we're still talking about that. And a lot of people are leaning into it. Jamie Dimon saying JP Morgan is hoarding cash because a very good chance inflation is here to stay. You got Paul Tudor Jones saying go all in on the inflation trades if the Fed keeps ignoring higher prices. So you have a lot of big names, big talkers out there talking about this idea of inflation, yet here we go. Stock markets continue to rally. We're pressing higher, continuing, and now you've got stocks taking off to the upside. I'm seeing some headlines start to come through. Unfortunately, I can't sit here and read through them to get some information. So if you see anything, just drop some blurbs here in the chat. I do want to say hello to everyone, Tanya, Bill, Sean, and Josh. I want to give a big shout out to Hogue, who picked up a couple of these for me last week. Getting pretty heavy with some trading, and sometimes you get lost at what time it is, and trading into the close or watching positions into the close. So last week I was a little busy on that one, but hopefully I won't have to worry about that. So once again, thank you, Hogue. And Greg, good to see you as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at these charts here today and see exactly what we had going on. As always, let's start out with crude oil. Crude oil opened up. Man, we were up there. And here's what I liked. We opened up, we attempted to continue pressing higher, and it showed us pretty fast, pretty abruptly, it was not happening. We really tried to attract buyers because off the open, the initial move was lower. Well, we came right down to this is the weighted moving average. As you guys know, I do use VWAP, so I got the weighted moving average on this one. But we fell back into a 20-period moving average. One of the common things that I look at, are moving average. This market broke right down to the moving average, bounced right off. Okay, interesting. Nice little pullback. It's still telling me possible off the open that maybe we're going to continue in our directional move that we saw all night. Well, we finally started to break down. We stopped attracting buyers. Once we start to recognize buyers are no longer attracting into this market, we have to start to look for the market to roll over. Once it gets directional, that's where we have to have our discretion as traders, find those points. Are we going to get in at the pullback? Well, we had a little bit of a pullback here today around 10:30 this morning. Market pulled back just slightly. That, to me, is our chance to say we have two options here. Well, are we just falling back into trend? Or are we going to take this directional move to the downside? Well, if you chose that directional move to the downside, you had a couple targets down below. You had Friday's value area high right here at 71.15, and you had settlement price all the way down here at 70.91. This market made it all the way to settlement price, and boom. Checks Friday's point of control almost to the tick, moved just slightly through that and almost down to value area low. Pretty wild to see how that market recovered inside there. Next, let's go ahead and look at the S&P 500, which prior to the last half hour, this market was in a downtrend all day. Opened up right at settlement price. And here's what I love. We worked ourselves right down to Friday's value area low. We're trading inside very nicely. Some good opportunity to catch the short. Maybe you're catching a couple bounces off the low side after this market designed it. And then once we started to rotate higher, that's where I started to look for things. That's where I started to get some interest. This market started to rally higher. Now, I'm not looking at the overnight swing high. Not a chance where I'm looking at the end of a day to get this market to run all the way up to 42.27. But more or less, I'm looking for it to get up to settlement price. Settlement price happens to be right here at 42.36 half. So good opportunity off the open to catch the short. If you catch it on a pullback, you're not looking for the huge moves, right? Mondays, we don't want to sit here and think we're going to expect that huge move. Well, we didn't get it until the end of the day, but you're trying to find those pullbacks to continue in the directional move to the downside. Financials may be taking a little bit of a hit here, hence tech moving a little bit higher. Speaking of tech, let's go ahead and take a look at that NASDAQ. NASDAQ is in a beautiful trend to the upside all day long here. We opened up, we went down, we checked Friday's point of a control to the tick. I think we moved like 3 ticks through it, but pretty darn close, right down to Friday's point of control. From there, the rally was on, and this was a very directional trade. Really hard to trade sometimes when you are looking at correlated markets, right? We talk a lot of times how equity markets, in theory, should move in conjunction with each other. Well, the laggards were the Dow, the S&P. Those were lagging behind here today. And the NASDAQ was really the leader. And they all finally started to come around at the end of the day. But this market, really, the move was to the upside. We saw a couple small little pullbacks. Remember, trend is your friend. And yeah, it sounds cliche to say that all the time, but it works. So people that try to argue, it works. You got to find those pullbacks. The longer you're in this, you start to recognize, where is that market pulling back? Where am I going to find those opportunities? What levels am I going to be looking at? Well, to me, I'm looking as soon as we move through overnight swing high right here. Once we moved through, that's when I'm starting to look for some longs, because it was kind of difficult unless we pull back, unless we're looking at the pullback to some moving averages. Remember, I look at my moving averages quite a bit just so you can see 20 period SMA, and then I also have the 20 period EMA, exponential moving average. We pulled back to them once, but from there on out, we didn't really get much of a pullback. So once we moved through overnight high, that's when I start to look for some opportunity to see if I can get in on the directional trade, looking for those pullbacks so I can manage my risk, keep my risk relatively tight to continue with the trend of the day. And again, big pop here to end the day. Still haven't seen a ton of news coming out on why that one happened, but we'll get more of that. We'll pay attention more, and we'll bring that to you guys tomorrow morning. Next, let's go ahead and look at the gold market. Gold, an interesting day. We opened up, we continued to move lower, and all of a sudden, huge pop. And you know what? This is where it gets really tough. This is not a tradable breakout, right? We see this market trending lower, opens up, continues to press lower, and all of a sudden, fast reversal. So we need to start to recognize this was not tradable. Just because we saw the big move, maybe you got lucky and you had that long position on. Outstanding job. Maybe you were looking and saying, I believe we're starting to show lack of volume on the downside move. Therefore, I'm looking for this market to fall into a pattern and possibly revert to the upside. If those are the things you're looking at and you were long, great things to look for. I would say 90% of the world, this is probably not the quick reversal you're looking to trade, and maybe you got stopped out. But here's what I like to see. We rallied right to, and this is what's got my attention, right where we're trading right now, 1867.50. 1867.50, overnight consolidation. I think that's going to be a key level here tonight as we trade. And if we're still near this level tomorrow, we'll continue to keep an eye on it, because that's where we hit that wall. We moved through it a little bit, pulled right back in, and we got point of control $1.50 below it at 1866 even. So this to me is going to be a pivotal location here tonight and tomorrow as we trade around this price. Obviously, if we move through here and we either break out to the upside and we start to rotate back towards settlement price up here at 1879.60. That's a potential directional area. We still have point of control up there. It has not been checked during regular trading hours just yet. So we may see if this thing starts to break outside of this little range. We press up above. That's an area to keep our eyes on up above. All right, next, let's go ahead and look at the euro. Not a lot for us to say here today on the euro. Relatively quiet day. We floated essentially, we spent all day floating around Friday's point of control. Simple as that. We opened up, we rallied the initial move. We maintained directional move with the overnight direction. We held right around Friday's point of control, which happens to be right where today's point of control. So really not a whole lot for us to talk about here on this market. But lastly, let's go ahead and take a look at the 10-year note. And maybe some of us caught that short move to the downside. This is where things start to get really interesting, right? We break out in this market. This market gets directional. So this is the point that I want to make when you look at these markets. When you're trading treasuries, they're not huge range markets. But when it starts to pick that direction and go, I've always looked at it as slightly a steamroll. Do not try and sit and hope for it to recover and return back to where it was. You can't play that wishing game with these treasury markets. They are a steamroller. Once they get directional, they will continue to go. And here's what I loved. We rotated all the way down to Thursday's swing low. Thursday last week, swing low. Not quite. We still got a little room down there, but I'm looking at value area. We came right down to Thursday's value area low right down here at 132.16.5. So good opportunity, a good little target down below. Those are key levels or key areas that we can pay attention to see if we can get those markets to come down to those prices if we're looking at that short when we're looking for those targets. So those are our markets here today. A pretty interesting day across the board. I'm really, blown away by this afternoon. This afternoon has been quite the rally when it comes to equities. Something that we all want to be a part of. I will say I was sitting here looking at those trades, looking at the NASDAQ and the S&P, and peeled off a long NASDAQ position a little bit before the breakout started to happen so I could get ready for this. And, of course, you're welcome to everybody who is long. I peeled the position off, and then, boom, market rallies to the upside. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our stocks and some of our buys that we did at the beginning of the year. We're back in the money on the Bitcoin. Finally, peaked above 40,000 here today. Currently, just under $39,900 a coin. You're seeing some positive talk about Bitcoin once again. Then we've got Airbnb, our other stock that we bought at the beginning. We bought it for $148, traded $149. We're up $1. Hey, in the green. Hard to argue that one. Then you've got VIX. VIX is staying quiet. We tried to get up above 17, couldn't hold. We're sitting right at 16 quarter right now. And then some of the other stocks that we've been watching that have just been so intriguing. So much fun to watch. GameStop, $230 a share. Tesla, who we've been watching for like 2 years now, really seems to be stabilizing. I'm not seeing these insanity moves. I say that tomorrow it's probably going to do something crazy. But holding right around $617 a share. Next, we've got one more. Where is it? AMC, which is the other one I've been watching a little bit. AMC, whoops, didn't refresh that. $57 a share. Nice little pop here today. 15, almost 16%. All right. Just make sure I got all the comments here. Day made. I just got over VWAP. Then this happens. Whoa. PD. Not that I don't agree with the inflation idea, but when everyone sees it, I think it rarely happens the way they all say. Murph's kind of agreeing with you there. I think they're all very afraid of another crash, so they are talking up the market. Those are good points to make. I think, as citizens and people that are realistic, we got to pay attention to that. If costs of goods and services are going to go up, we have to, keep that one in mind. Just in our personal own experience, we look at it now. Lumber, cost of lumber is more than double. Milk, more expensive. All products that we're buying out there, prices have gone up. How often are those prices going to start to drop, right? That's the question. Looking at buying, building a house, it's something I've been thinking about and I've thought about a lot. The cost to build a house right now per square foot is up almost 100%. As a builder, I'm not going to really peel. If I'm a builder, I'm not going to peel my prices back right away until the economy starts to take the hit. So those are just things we want to start to think about with more about that inflation aspect too, right? We got gas up quite a bit since a year ago, right? About a year ago, a little over a year ago, we saw crude oil go negative. Now we're trading back up at 71. Prices we haven't seen in about two and a half years. So it's just an interesting time, and we want to be thinking about all the factors of that idea of inflation. Eventually, if it gets to a point where we kind of overflow, we may see the equities want to dump. But maybe Wednesday, FOMC, maybe the Fed will start talking about this idea of inflation a little bit more and send a little jolt into things. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Speaking of that conversation, tomorrow, Coach's Playbook, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Carol will be joining us once again, and we will be talking Fed, some of the things that they may be talking about, and some things to kind of keep our eyes on when it comes to that. So, Tanya, I was long ES at 42.25, but got out after I sat there for too long to make me comfortable. I get that one. Norman, I heard from the CME that they're going to offer micro 10-year notes, etc. Pretty boring to watch. It's just such a slow market. But hey, you know what? They seem to be attracting a lot of retail with the micros. You're seeing volume from the from the E-mini NASDAQ rolling into the micro NASDAQ. It's kind of interesting. Does that mean maybe it's going to be like when we introduced the minis? We kind of peeled away from the standards when we volume went into the minis. Maybe that's going to happen here with the micros. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's been fun to watch. I really enjoy the micros. I think it has brought in a lot of younger, new traders into the marketplace, which, hey, more the merrier. Love to have everyone joining us over there. All right, one last thing. Let's just see here if I see any news come through on this equity breakout. I haven't seen, no updates just yet. But definitely curious to keep an eye on it. And, President Biden talking about NATO. So we got a lot going on there with G7. So a lot of news that's probably going to continue to roll in. So let's keep our eyes peeled on that one. And if the market starts to go against you, don't be afraid to get out. Get out, especially if you don't know why it's going against you. Get out and take a moment to reset there. Oh, and also yields are up today. 10-year note up 0.035 and the 30-year 0.032. All right, lastly, guys, this date in history, it's a pretty cool one. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of the American flag. As you can see, we got it sitting right there. So I like the American flag. And today, in 1777, Congress adopts the Stars and Stripes. So today is the unofficial, I don't believe it's an actual official holiday, the unofficial national holiday of Flag Day. So if you got your American flag, hang it proud. All right, and then I think I had a couple other interesting ones. Yes, 1951. UNIVAC was the first ever commercially produced digital computer on this date in 1951. Pretty wild. You think about it, we went to the moon with technology, less technology than we carry in our cell phones every day. And in 1951, I think these computers were the size of a house. Just wild to think about. And then I think I had one more. Yes, this one's pretty cool. Just perspective, right? We're talking about technology with the computers. 1922. Warren Harding was the first ever president to be heard on radio, 1922. So 99 years ago, which in reality is not that long ago, we were just hearing a president for the first time ever on radio. Now we get to hear them, world leaders, all the time from around the world. Pretty much turn on the news and you're going to hear one of them talking. So it's pretty cool. All right. At this point, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign on out. John will be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central Time with the market forecast. So until then, stay safe, wash your hands, trade smart, and trade well. I look forward to seeing you guys in the markets. Take care, everybody.